Hello and welcome to the editorial analysis of the Hindu. Today we shall be discussing the editorial of the 5th of August. So coming to the first article, pulling Vietnam in Afghanistan. Now the context here is with regards to the retreat of USA from Afghanistan. This is very much in news these days, primarily because US is really hushing up, or rather increasing its impact or its speed of withdrawal from Afghanistan. So very much in news, and this becomes important because the comparison is what has been drawn with Vietnam. So that is the unique aspect of this particular editorial. Now coming to the issues. First and foremost, in the context of the Vietnam War, what you should know is that during the late 1960s, this war was what was continuing, and by this time US very much came to know that it is not going to win this war, and this was almost a lost battle for US. Then in the year 1968, what happened was that in US a new president came to power. That was Mr. Richard Nixon. So this is one name that you need to remember. Mr. Richard Nixon was the president, and he appointed a national security advisor whose name was Henry Kissinger. So this is the name of the national security advisor, is what you should know, because this is what has been given, and also this is a part of your syllabus in the world history aspect. So in the modern history also, this is what is very, very relevant. So that is how you need to be aware of this particular aspect. So when they came into power, at that point of time, the sentiment in the country was such that entire US was, at that point of time, the people in US were against the war in Vietnam, and they immediately wanted US to retreat from Vietnam. This is somewhat similar to the situation in US now, because now the people are against the war in Afghanistan and they want an immediate withdrawal from Afghanistan, and now the president who has promised to do that is President Trump. So for him, this is what is a very, very urgent and a project that is close to his heart. So this is one aspect that you should know. Another thing in the context of the Vietnam War, you should know that this was what was at that time divided into two parts, North and South. The South Vietnam was what was being supported by US, and the North Vietnam was a communist region. So what was important here was that the government that US was supporting, this was a government that was not favored by the people. This was not to the liking of the people, and as a result of which the war was almost difficult to win. It was almost impossible to win. Some terms have been used, for example, peace with honor. This was the name of the treaty that was planned for the retreat from Afghanistan. Peace with honor, also the stalemate machine. So these are some terms that have been offered, which we can make a note of to remember, and these can be used in the context of Afghanistan. Another analysis is with regards to Afghanistan. Now there is definitely a situation of stalemate in Afghanistan. We all know that. I will not delve deep into this because this is what we have discussed time and again. The name that is offered here is important. A veteran diplomat in US, that is Zalmay Khalilzad. He is the person who has been given this opportunity, just like Henry Kissinger. Zalmay Khalilzad has been given the opportunity to make the US withdraw from Afghanistan. So this is one new piece of information which becomes important. Another analysis that is important is with regards to the position of weakness that US is in. Now it is not that US is in a strengthening position, or it is in a very, very powerful position as of now. This is primarily shown by some actions that US has taken. For example, US continued talks with Taliban on a condition of no ceasefire, which means that despite the fact that there was no ceasefire between both Afghanistan as well as between both US as well as Taliban, still US has continued its talks with Taliban, which is showing that US is weak and it is left with no other opportunity but to hold talks with Taliban, despite the latter continuing with its terrorist activities. Another aspect that is important is that the government in Afghanistan has not been taken on board. This was the prime demand of Taliban, and this is what US has given into. So this is again showing that US is what is in a position of weakness in Afghanistan. Largely the trouble for US is that it is a face saver for US. If US withdraws from Afghanistan and Taliban rises and terrorism comes back, then all these years of war, this is the longest war in America's history, is what comes to an end, or for that matter, it comes to an end with a bad or a negative undertone. So this is what US doesn't want. It is only a face saver that US wants as of now. Another thing that is important is with regards to the result of the Vietnam War. Now when US withdrew from the Vietnam, it withdrew without any concrete treaty, without any concrete solution, and within 2 years itself the North had defeated the South, and it had taken over entire Vietnam. So that was the result of the Vietnam War, and a similar result is what you can definitely expect in the case of Afghanistan. So that is again something that has been highlighted here. Important article, relevant for us. You must be prepared with this. Previously, if you remember, some of you remember, there was a question in the UPSC mains where the question was that how would you deal or discuss about industrial revolution in the context of India's current scenario. So that is how sometimes questions are framed, and you can have this kind of a question that how will you discuss the retreat of US from Vietnam or the Vietnam War with the current scenario in Afghanistan. So this kind of an analysis is what you can definitely expect. The paper is relevant from the context of modern history in paper 1 and otherwise also for international relations. This is important. If a question does come on Afghanistan also, there also you can draw an analogy with Vietnam. So that is how you have to use it. Coming to the next article, bigger and better. The context here is with regards to the decision taken by the Union Cabinet to increase the number of judges in the Supreme Court. This is what is proposed to be increased from 31 to now 34. So this is again a major development, important for us. The first issue is the perennial complaint. Now for long, judges have been complaining that the numbers are very, very less as compared to the demand. There was also a scenario when the Chief Justice of India himself even wept in one of the public platforms where he said that his heart aches considering and looking at the workload that his fellow judges have. So this is one perennial complaint which has been addressed. This is important. Another analysis is with regards to the last amendment. Now before this last amendment for increasing the number of judges, when the number was increased from 26 to 31 is what took place back in the year 2009. So this is some history to this particular development which becomes important. Another analysis is with regards to constitutional benches. Now here you should know that whenever any question has to be discussed in the context of the constitution, then a bench is formed, and minimum it should have three judges on board. But what we are now seeing is that constitutional benches are either not being formed, or if they are being formed, they are being formed with only 2 judges. So this is clearly showing that there is a scarcity of judges, and it is primarily for this need that there was a requirement for increasing the number of judges in the Supreme Court. So that is what has been highlighted here. Another analysis is with regards to making sure that the judges that are available, their functions are what are put to optimal use. As of now, that is what is not happening in the context of the judicial resources. What is important is the large amount of their time is what is wasted on mundane matters like bails and some other matters. Even matters as simple as PILs are what are being discussed by the Supreme Court, and even under these PILs what is often happening is that matters like flood work, in case of a disaster, any relief work, a flood relief work is also what is being overseen by the Supreme Court. This is burdening the Supreme Court and hence restricting it from fully performing its duties. So that is what is important. Next, what is again important is that reasonable restraint being shown by the Supreme Court, because this is in line with preserving the primary role of the Supreme Court. What is the primary role is that it has to function on constitutional questions as well as statutory interpretation. So the constitutional question as well as statutory interpretation is the primary role which has taken a back seat. So that is what has been discussed. Another analysis, very, very relevant. This is something that I would suggest that even we otherwise would have given, even if you wouldn't have known that this is what is suggested by the Law Commission report, you would have automatically suggested this. But when you can quote or we can support your suggestion with the report, it obviously will give you more marks. So the 229th report of the Law Commission had suggested for a newer model where a constitution bench of the Supreme Court is what is advocated for Delhi, that this should be the bench that sits in Delhi and this should only discuss constitutional questions. For other issues, there should be 4 other benches which will be known as the cassation benches. There should be 4 such benches which should sit in almost 4 different parts of the country. This will also ensure that justice is what is available at a cost-effective manner. It is more accessible, more affordable for the people. As of now, reaching the Supreme Court in Delhi is what is very, very tedious for the population. So in that particular context, this is the suggestion which you should replicate. Try and talk about the 229th report of the Law Commission. Then that is how you have to use it. Relevance is for General Studies paper 2. That is where a question can come. So that is how you have to use it. Coming to the next article, freeing Kulbhushan Jhadav. We have discussed this particular case. We have discussed it a lot in the context of the ICJ ruling that has come. So the context is the Kulbhushan Jhadav case, and coming to the issue, the first issue is with regards to the ICJ ruling, which we all know has recently come, and this is as per this ruling the ICJ has found Pakistan guilty of violation of the Vienna Convention. So this was a major achievement for India. Now what has happened is that as per this ruling, India has to get Mr. Kulbhushan Jhadav is now going to get consular access from India, but on this consular council access, Pakistan is putting a number of conditions. For example, it is saying that this access will only be provided under CCTV cameras. There will be a Pakistani official who will be present in the room. So these are some challenges which India and Pakistan are still facing. That is the newer development here. Another thing that is important is the concerns that India is having in this particular case. The first concern is that this is what is reflecting a non-serious attitude of Pakistan on implementing the order from the ICJ. And if that is what is the case, then it might even overlook orders, because you should know that the ICJ has overturned the death penalty that Mr. Kulbhushan Jhadav was to get. So in that context, if it is not being taken seriously, so it is being feared that this can further hamper India. That is the first concern for India. Another concern is that tensions are again on the rise between India and Pakistan. There is firing at the LOC from both the ends. There are accusations against each other. This is something that relations are further spiraling down between both the countries, and that is one concern. So that is the newer development in the context of Kulbhushan Jhadav case. We have discussed so much on it. This article indeed is only a continuation but not majorly important, so that is how you have to use it. Coming to the next article, basically this is not an important article primarily because this is state specific. Now, if you're following my discussion for just few days back, we discussed an article on mob lynching, and that is where I had discussed a similar article like this, that how mob lynching is what needs to be made into a criminal offence. So this is what is important. But what is relevant to this particular article first and foremost is that a bill is what has been proposed in the state of Rajasthan. This is an example that you can use. Previously I had told you Manipur has a similar ordinance, not a law but an ordinance. And now Rajasthan is in line. But why I picked up this article today is, for one thing only, there is a definition of lynching that has been given. Even in my previous discussion I had told you, and we had defined lynching, but there it was defined in a very short manner, in a very brief manner. That is when you can use that definition also if you have limited scope, but this is an all-encompassing definition, and this is why I picked it up. Now the bill in Rajasthan defines lynching as an act or a series of acts of violence or aiding or abetting or attempting an act of violence, whether spontaneously or planned by a mob which comprises of two or more persons on the ground of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, language, dietary practices, sexual orientation, political affiliation and ethnicity. So this is the definition that I would suggest. Take a note of this definition, write it down somewhere. Mob lynching will be important. You can find a question on this in either ethics paper. As a social issue also you can find it. It has several areas of importance and relevance. You can use it. So that is why I picked this particular article. So that's about this particular article, and that's about our discussion today. I thank you all for watching the video.